Hi, my name is Alvin. My real name is Trần Quốc Anh, and today we will talk about an article about inflation. Inflation has always been the talking point when we talk about economic, and with such as a high interest for this subject as a whole. I would like to introduce to everyone about this article called Annual Review of Financial Economics, Inflation and Asset Return. This article, written by Anna Sieglak and Caroline Pfluger, is a thorough review of how inflation affects financial assets, with a special emphasis on the effects on bonds and stocks. The authors study inflation's behavior over time, how inflation affects assets pricing, and how different types of inflation impact investor risk management. Let's move on to the first thing of the presentation, which is inflation and financial market. So the first part of the review considers the relationship between inflation and asset return, a topic of critical importance to policymakers and investors. Inflation can erode the real value of assets with fixed dollar payouts, such as nominal treasury bonds, while equities tied to real assets may theoretically be an inflation hedge. Let's move on to the second, which is types of inflation, which is good or bad. One interesting notion that is this article exposed me to is the concept of good and bad inflation. Good inflation originates from demand shocks that increase both inflation and output, typically seen in economic expansion, while bad inflation stems from cost push shocks, such as rising production costs or supply constraints, and is often associated with recession or economic downturns. This was especially evident during the 1970s stagflation period, where high inflation coincided with poor economic growth. Let's move on to the third, which is theoretical models linking inflation and asset pricing. To explain these observed trends, the authors apply a new Keynesian framework. This allows for a detailed understanding of the nuances behind market reaction to different types of inflation. The authors effectively leverage this model to link back to the idea of good and bad types of inflation. For example, cost push inflation tends to have a more pronounced negative effect on asset returns compared to demand pull inflation, which may be seen as an indicator of economic growth. So let's move on to some equation. First of all, we have Euler equation, and second of all, we have Phillips curve, and the last we have monetary policy rule. Let's move on to the fourth, which is my favorite part of the presentation, which is why it is interesting. So this article is compelling for several reasons. First, it is highly relevant given the current global economic environment characterized by fluctuating inflation rates and economic uncertainty. The topic provides valuable insights into how investors can adjust their strategies in response to the ever-changing inflation types. Furthermore, this research challenges to the conventional thinking that inflation uniformly affects asset prices by showing the differences between demand pull and cost push inflation. This differentiation is essential for investors and policymakers who need a deeper understanding to make an informed decision in today's market. Let's move on to the last part of the presentation, which is critical evolution. So this article presents compelling argument backed by extensive data an analysis and rigorous application of economic theory. The use of a new Keynesian framework allows the authors to connect theoretical predictors with observable market behaviors effectively. A significant strength of the research is its comprehensive approach, including real-world data spanning decades to ensure robust finding. However, there are a few caveats. The assumption within the new Keynesian framework may not fully capture the complexities of real-life scenarios. Additionally, the paper's in-depth analysis makes it highly technical, which might challenge readers who lack an economist background. Despite that, the author have able to successfully highlight the importance of distinguish between different types of inflation and their distinct market impacts. This research adds substantial value to the existing literature by demonstrating that the markets respond very significantly based on whether inflation is driven by demand-side pressure or supply-side constraints. In conclusion, this article serves as a critical resource for understanding the nuances interplay between macroeconomic forces and asset market reaction, making it particularly valuable for both scholars and practitioners in finance and economics. This is the end of my presentation. Again, my name is Trần, and I'm really grateful for you guys listening to my presentation. I really appreciate it.